one job to turn the hose off when the hot tub was done filling up. And I forgot, and it was overflowing. Let's talk about finding your pelvic floor contraction, because it's a common question in the DMs, like, well, how do I know I'm doing it right? So I thought I would share some of the most commonly used cues that help people find it. So let's touch on the fact of a Kegel, and I often don't even like to say Kegel, I like to call it a pelvic floor contraction, because I've talked about this before. A lot of times when people think of Kegel, they only think of squeezing. And that really misses the whole point of how your pelvic floor functions, to lengthen on an inhale and lift on an exhale. And if you're only squeezing, we're not getting a lifting part. But if you're only focusing on squeezing, you're also not focusing on the full range of motion of that muscle, which is really why a lot of people can end up with a hypertonic or a tight pelvic floor, because they may have been people who have been told to squeeze and do their Kegels their whole life. They continue to make that tight pelvic floor even tighter and not find that relaxation phase. And then there were some questions about why you shouldn't stop the flow of urine and practice your Kegels that way. And it's twofold. One is, if you're only stopping the flow of urine, you're only getting the front or the anterior part of the pelvic floor. And we know that it's a bowl, and so it covers the urethra, around the vagina, and the anus. And I want you to know, like, if you had to stop the flow of gas, would just stopping the flow of urine help you feel the entire pelvic floor? Or might you be somebody who needs to think about stopping the flow of urine, stopping the flow of gas, and lifting from the center? As you start to learn how to feel these different things in your body, you figure out which cue works for you. The second part is that the pelvic floor and the bladder have an opposite relationship that works really great. So the pelvic floor needs to relax so the bladder can contract to do its emptying. For complete emptying to happen, the pelvic floor muscles need to relax. So this is why we talk about a nice big inhale to lengthen that pelvic floor. This goes for bowel movements as well. This goes for childbirth, right? If we practice Kegels, or we are doing this on a regular basis, now remember, an isolated incident of doing this might be necessary. Maybe there's no toilet paper and you need to run and get it. But I would still wait until my flow of urine is done. But anyways, we condition the brain to get feedback of tightening the pelvic floor during this process if you do it enough. And that can lead to incomplete emptying. That can lead to leaking. That can lead to a tight pelvic floor. And it's the opposite of why we don't want you to squat or push your pee out when you're trying to pee too. The pelvic floor is active and on. We're pushing down against an active pelvic floor. It's weakening those muscles, and it's disrupting this beautiful relationship that exists in the body. You shouldn't be doing this all day. Quiet breathing should be expansion on your inhale, and then a gentle falling of the belly on your exhale throughout the day on a regular basis. You would not be lifting your pelvic floor. Don't do that. There should be a natural recoil happening there, like a trampoline on your inhale and exhale throughout daily movements. But when you're working on retraining and you're doing focused breath work and strengthening and re-engaging and learning to re-coordinate and change these new neural systems that we're trying to get to, that's when you would actively focus on a lot of these things.
All right, so I want to hear what y'all think of this one. Which is more difficult for you to feel your pelvic floor? Is it when you lower and your pelvic floor lengthens? Is it when you raise and your pelvic floor lifts? Or is it the coordination of the two? This is a significant concept that I feel like people struggle with a lot, that when you inhale, you don't want to let go of your pelvic floor, but you want an eccentric contraction, a lengthening contraction of your pelvic floor, just like what's happening with your hips. Your hips have to lengthen to allow you to lower, and then you get the shortening contraction, the eccentric contraction of your pelvic floor and your hips when you raise back up. So let me know what you think and what questions you have. And we are on the road today, so I will not be available much the rest of today or this weekend, but I will get back to all your questions and comments on Monday.